All right, guys, in honor of World Day Against Trafficking, Vanessa and Laura Marano are having conversations about sexual exploitation with human trafficking survivors and advocates. And I'm joined now by the sisters to learn all about it. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me.
It's so good to see you. Thank you so much for having us on.
You recently celebrated the one-year anniversary of the film, Saving Zoe. I want to know what kind of lasting impact that has had on you.
One kind of more basic idea is that Vanessa and I really want to continue producing with our mother as well. Like, it was such a hard project for so many reasons. One being we filmed it in 15 days.
Wow.
And even with those challenges, we had the best time. Hard work, a lot of different things, but I think for us, it really inspired us to produce more and to create more content and kind of be on the ground up in creating this content.
And then for us to be able to take the film to the UN after it came out and show a clip of the film. A survivor of sex trafficking spoke at the UN about this issue and pointed to our film as a reference of like, this is how insidious it can happen. So there's this aspect of, yes, being able to accomplish things that you've always wanted to accomplish, like producing, but there's this other aspect, and it's kind of what we're here talking about today, which is we're so proud that we made a film about an important issue, and we've been able to talk about it and educate it, and we just want to continue doing that.
Well, and you know, it's one of those things where I think, yeah, awareness is a huge piece of this, because so many people are just oblivious to what's going on through no fault of their own. It's just not something that's necessarily talked about. You're making it more of a mainstream conversation, which is so important. Having conversations about trafficking. Give us a little snapshot of how prevalent this is in the United States.
So obviously human trafficking can be a variety of different things: slave labor, commercial sex trade, sexual exploitation, the trafficking of humans. For that is a $99 billion industry worldwide. Every year, it's estimated that $99 billion in profit happen from commercial sexual exploitation. And we think about it as like, oh, it's people being funneled in from other countries or taken out of America into those other countries. The United States is one of the top source and transit destinations for trafficking. So it happens in the United States a ton, not just of foreign nationals coming in here, but also of their own citizens in the United States. And the trafficking of children and the exploitation of children has been reported in every single state in the US. It's a huge issue, and part of that is it's a lucrative industry. Yeah. And that's also part of the reason why a lot of people don't want to talk about it.
And yeah, and it can be very insidious, right? Like there's a certain it sort of hides in the shadows to some degree. I don't know if people know what to look for, but talk about a little bit about something that you're going to be speaking more about, the grooming process. What can that look like?
Vanessa and I did a panel with survivors and advocates, and we go into all these different subjects, right? So one of the things we get into is, yes, the grooming process, which can look different. There, as one of our survivors, Melanie Thompson, describes, it can be violent, it can be with threats, but it also can look very different. It can look like love and security. This is the more insidious ways, and this is what we really do want to talk about, because we don't talk about this type of grooming as well. Unfortunately, a lot of people fall into that trap. Yeah. And when we go into online sexual exploitation, this is a very big thing and a very big way that people get into it, whether it's the gaming industry of someone contacting a young kid or a young person through gaming and says, oh, do you want this game? I can buy you this game if you want this game. And I just let's make sure we play this game every day at this time. And then, hey, can you send me a photo? I'll give you this game, but you have to send me a photo. And then it gets more and
builds
more.
From there, right.
There's so many different factors, and something that, especially because social media has come into the mix now, our lives are so out there, and that's the way that we communicate, is traffickers are masterminds, and predators in general, of how to target a potential victim. And we go through this a lot because we had a lot of questions of people being like, how do I avoid this happening to me? Or why did they pick me if it so unfortunately did happen to them? And I think the important thing to remember is it could happen to anyone. It is not your fault if this happens to you. There's a lot of societal barriers that make it easier, but also just with the invention of the internet and how we communicate, traffickers are smart. They target you based off of whatever your particular vulnerability may be. And we all have vulnerabilities. That is the bottom line. And we really, again, the reason why we wanted to have this conversation is I think we think of this as something that's so far away. Part of the reason is that marginalized communities are more easily targeted. And that's why a lot of the times the mainstream media makes it look a different way, or thinks it looks a different way, or thinks it's so far away. But the bottom line is it's happening all the time, and it could easily happen to anyone.
And then here we are in this situation, the pandemic, a lot of people spending more time home, more time online, a lot of kids, younger people especially, doing that and just kind of entrenched in social media and gaming and all of that. I guess I don't know if is it sort of tips or advice or something that you've learned about how people can sort of ensure safety for themselves and for kids and for people that they know, and sort of raise a red flag of like, oh, be careful, watch for this. Is there anything practical like that that you've learned?
Vanessa and I heard this one thought that I think is a really great tip. You know, telling your kid, if you are talking to someone, a stranger or someone you know, because by the way, it also happens with people you know or you think you know, and they say, don't tell your parents this, don't tell your parent what I just said or what I just did or what we just did. That should be a number one red flag. You tell your kid, tell me.
Yeah.
Tell me that conversation.
You know what, that totally reminds me, sorry, I interrupted there. That totally reminds me, one of the things that we have always told our little girls is that we don't keep any secrets from mommy and daddy. We can have surprises, not secrets. So if an adult, you know, tells you something like that, or someone tells you keep this secret, we never do it, and that's immediately something you tell us. You guys are also taking action in other ways. You petitioned the Senate to pass the Put Trafficking Victims First Act. Give me a little snapshot of that, Laura.
Yeah, so Congresswoman Karen Bass got this policy passed, this bill passed in the House of Representatives, the Survivor Informed Bill, which really talks about putting survivors at the forefront of helping us create policies. It passed like in flying colors in the House of Representatives, bipartisan. I think only one person didn't vote yes on it, but unfortunately it's sitting on the Senate floor right now. So it has not become a law. It has not taken that next step. And so last summer, Vanessa and I, wrote an article for The Hill, really discussing and urging the Senate and urging people to talk about this and urging their senators to get this bill passed because it's really, really important.
Quickly, where can people find these conversations?
So they're going to be on both of our Instagrams, and our Instagram handles is individually at Laura Marano, LauraMarano.
At Vanessa Marano, VANESSAMARANO.
We like to clarify the last name because people misspell the last name all the time. It goes O and U like the car. That is not how you spell it. It's M-A, Marano.
Marano. Got it.
They get the shoulders and the hands.
Yeah, you got to do this, and then you know how to spell it.
Obviously.
Ladies, it's a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you for doing your work in making this a more mainstream conversation, spreading awareness, and really doing good work to save people from a lot of bad things. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having us.